Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the deck. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your boom.
Here's Jalen Rose.
What up, dog?
I'm David Jacoby.
And
we
check-in.
are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do?
We give the people what they want.
The people wanted a great game between the Cavs and the Warriors. The people did not get that, Jalen Rose. What do you take away from this dominant blowout performance by the Warriors?
These are the two best teams in basketball. The Cleveland Cavaliers on Christmas Day took care of business, and the Golden State Warriors answered as such. When these games are scheduled during the regular season, there could be a lot of ebbs and flows that determine who's going to win and lose. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are on a West Coast trip.
Yep, the end of it.
They're playing multiple games every other night, seemingly. And for whatever it's worth, during this time of the year, they're actually struggling based on what we expect from their basketball team. And they're injured, in particular J.R. Smith and Kevin Love, who left the game due to injury. While the Golden State Warriors were playing at home, had revenge on their mind, not only from the NBA Finals, but from the time they lost already this year when they performed against one another. Yep. And they had a few days off to prepare, so they were rested. And so I'm not surprised at all that the Golden State Warriors won, but you're always surprised when the two best teams in the league play against each other and one team wins by 30-plus points.
Always. Now, I know you heard this news report that the Cavaliers were thinking about. They didn't do it. They were thinking about resting Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love. You know I love that strategy. They're at the end of a road trip. They're like, you know what? We don't want to play y'all. We might lose. We don't want to give you the satisfaction of beating us at full strength. Let's rest our best guys and then just let you guys beat up on the little ones. They didn't employ that strategy, but when you read that, what did you think?
I just don't like where this is going for the league and for the fans. And I know that you joke that I'm old man Jalen when I talk about players that are healthy resting, but I know we're going to talk about the Hawks and the Knicks game. Look down at the box score. Dwight Howard resting? What? Like that, there has to be some sort of accountability to your team, your teammates, and also just the sanctity and love for the game and for the fans, that the integrity allows healthy players to perform. And if they would not have played in the game, it would have continued to distinguish what I'm already disgusted by.
Well, they did play, and LeBron James had the ball at half court, full speed. Draymond Green evaluated the situation and made a business decision. What did you think about Draymond's foul?
We're overreacting to it. The league's overreacting to it. The officials are too. LeBron did a flop. This is what happens when you have one of the greatest players of all time going full speed down the court, and you don't want him to dunk on the entire team. You foul him. Yep. It's no different in rec ball, playing in the backyard, playing at the park. The game gets more physical the later the game goes, the closer the score is. And when you get closer to game point, it becomes basket or a foul type of deal. And also, didn't these two have a mix-up in the NBA Finals?
Perhaps.
That led to Draymond Green being suspended, in my opinion, which cost the Golden State Warriors an NBA championship. So I'm not surprised that they got tangled up. I'm not surprised that Draymond Green mocked the situation with LeBron flopping. I'm not surprised that LeBron flopped. But I'm saddened by the fact I'm surprised by the overreaction to it. If anybody was watching the game, they reviewed it for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm like, serious?
It took forever. I left the room and came back. They're still reviewing it. It just seemed like a common foul. And here's the thing. It's like, If you see LeBron James gathering steam 40 feet from the basket, you know it's not going to end well, especially when you're backpedaling. He made a decision. He's like, I'm going to stop his momentum. I'm going to foul him before he even gets a shot attempt up. And if he's, LeBron James, you have to foul hard. It just seemed like a common foul. We all should have moved on. However, you know who didn't move on? Richard Jefferson. What do you think about Richard Jefferson acting like he wanted it?
Hold me back. Here's the thing. When you're one of the oldest players in the league that still finds a way to make a three and get a dunk each game, and all of a sudden it seems like he's found the fountain of youth, but you're not a 15-point scorer, as a veteran, you got to inherit other roles. And fake tough guy is one of them. Bodyguard for LeBron James and Kyrie Irving is the other. So anytime a situation happens when they're involved, he will be sticking out his chest, huffing and puffing. And I don't encourage fighting in any way, shape, or form, but will not be throwing any blows.
Another thing is, I know you don't encourage fighting in any way, shape, or form, but let's be honest. On an NBA basketball court, you're not going to see fighting in any way, shape, or form. You're going to see a lot of guys acting like they want it and then hold me back moments. And we will celebrate them here on Jalen Jacoby because we love the drama.
But that's the smart way also to deal with conflict on the court. And when you have young players, in particular middle school, high school, this is how you differentiate who's really serious about the game. Those who know how to endure trash talk and physical play and the coach chewing their butt and still able to block it out, compete, and do their best versus those that whine, those that moan, those that every time they get touched, they want to fight. Like, in particular, playing inner city basketball, that's okay to act like that, but you want to be a high school player, you want to be a collegiate player, you dream about making it to the pros, the dudes that you're playing against, they're going to pop the trunk on you. So you learn at some point that there's a way to disagree with this guy that's in front of me. And the dude that usually ends up fighting is the one that doesn't have the emotional endurance to deal with the turbulence that's going to happen on the court.
Of course, and one thing that LeBron has mastered is not just flopping and not the game of basketball. It's also the mind games that surround the game of basketball. And one thing he did, which I loved, is he dismissed that the Cavaliers and the Warriors have a rivalry. It was like, rivalry? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, nah, we don't have a rivalry. That's crazy. Draymond Green, after the game, dismissed that and said, this is definitely a rivalry. I ask you, Mr. Rose, the Cavaliers and the Warriors, a true rivalry?
I'm with LeBron. It's not a rivalry. I know we want to force that term on these two teams.
I definitely want to.
Let me tell everybody what makes a rivalry. And it won't even be that these teams have the opportunity to face one another 3 straight times in the NBA Finals, which has never happened in the history.
Never happened before. Sounds like a rivalry to me.
What creates a rivalry is I don't like you. I want to beat you. I'm not going to help you up. I am not your friend. I don't have anything to say nice about you. That's a rivalry. Yep. I grew up watching the Detroit Pistons have rivalries literally against the Lakers, where Isaiah and Magic would kiss one another on the cheek because they were brothers, yet clothesline one another soon as the game started. Playing against the Bulls, where we were the champs. We were kicking Mike. We were kicking Scotty. And before you know it, they rose up and they eliminated us. And you know what the Pistons did? Walked off without shaking their hands. The same thing playing against the Celtics. So as a fan, I've been entrenched on what a rivalry looks like. And it's not a rivalry when you're huffing and you're puffing and you're helping each other up and you're complimenting one another in the media. That's not a rivalry. Dislike creates a rivalry, not how many times you face one another.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you sound like a lot of people from your generation saying that, like, it's not like it used to be. But will you acknowledge this? Is this a modern-day rivalry? The game has changed. The world has changed. Is this what we now consider a rivalry in today's day and age?
No. Stop forcing it. I got a great analogy for you. You can never judge from a distance and call a situation a rivalry or a beef when the two people that are involved in it don't consider it as such. How you guys going to make this a rivalry? How you guys going to make it a beef? The best player on the Cavs and the whole best player in the league said it's not a rivalry. His hands are down.
Well, Draymond Green's hand was up into LeBron James's crotch. That's beef. That's a rivalry.
Yep.
Jalen Rose, our girl Ramona Shelbourne, has the reports from the inside of the dumpster fire that is the New York Knicks franchise. First, there was a report that Carmelo Anthony maybe wanted out, or maybe the Knicks wanted him out, and they were going to have a meeting. Phil Jackson and Carmelo Anthony had a meeting, and Phil Jackson asked Carmelo Anthony if he wants to stay with the franchise. Take us behind the curtain. What is really going on in this dance between Carmelo Anthony and the Knicks?
What's really going on is our good friend and fine reporter Ramona is willing to reveal her sources. For those that listen to this program, I've been talking about this for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And not only have I been talking about it, I'm telling you the teams that Carmelo would waive his no-trade clause
As you have before.
The Banana Boat crew. Either go to Cleveland and run with LeBron, or go to L.A. and run with CP3. Those are the options. This is not breaking news. This is not surprising. Have you seen the Knicks advance in the playoffs with Carmelo Anthony consistently?
No, I have not, Mr. Rose.
Have you seen them become a contending team with him on the roster?
No, I have not, Mr. Rose. Have you seen Phil Jackson, amid all this turmoil, make any statements or appear in the public?
No.
I have not. There isn't much to say except have his homeboy do a sneak diss type article to talk about all of the things that he wish he could say on wax for him. That's basically what took place. If you guys think that yesterday or today is the first time that Carmelo Anthony thought about waiving his no-trade clause, I have some swampland for sale in Detroit for you.
It happens right around this time every single year. The Knicks season falls apart. Carmelo Anthony starts looking at the other options that he has out there to waive his no-trade clause to, just like he is doing now. He's saying, ooh, none of these deals are really going to work. And then he starts saying, this shoulder really does hurt. Perhaps I need some time on the bench. Maybe I just need to rehab this a little bit and then gear himself up for another year with the Knicks.
Well, he goes into his Smokey from Friday mode. My neck, my back. My neck and my back.
So
that's what ends up happening.
Is there a deal out there for Carmelo Anthony? Is there something that's possible?
I have something for all of these pundits who want to talk about this topic.
What's that?
This is a salary cap driven sport. You're not trading points per game, rebounds and assists. You're trading salaries, which means when you move Melo from the Knicks, you're going to have to bring in players that make comparable to what he makes. There's a reason why when LeBron, Wade, and Bosh got 3-year deals, he took a 5-year deal. There's a reason why when he could have taken a 2-year deal like KD did with the Warriors, he took another 5-year deal. And you know what else he did? Got a no-trade clause. Because he made sure, win, lose, or draw, I'm getting 100% of the money that I can possibly earn. So with that being said, there aren't many suitors.
There's not. Now, you'll never believe this, but Rajon Rondo and his basketball franchise aren't exactly seeing eye to eye.
What?
No.
Mr. Rondo is claiming that when he was signed to the Bulls, that he was told that he was going to run the show, that he was going to have the keys to the car. They was going to give the ball to Rondo, and he was going to run the show, distribute the ball, and it was all going to work through him. You'll never believe this, but what they told him before he signed and what happened after he signed weren't exactly the same thing, whether his fault or the franchise's fault. What do you think will happen now with Rondo and the Bulls?
He won't be getting minutes if everybody's healthy.
No.
When the Bulls signed Fred Hoiberg, the offense was supposed to resemble what's become homogenous around the league. 4 people around the three-point line, 1 guy slashing, diving, catching lobs, or 5 people around the three-point line doing drive and kick. But when you look at their roster, it doesn't resemble a team to play that way.
No,
not really.
Especially when you signed Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, who probably during the regular season last year made 10 total threes.
Yeah, probably about 15 or something.
And then you have Jimmy Butler at the 3, who I think is an all-star caliber player, but not necessarily what's considered a knockdown shooter.
No.
Taj Gibson I would love to have him on my roster. Does all of the energy, effort, intangibles, rebounds, scores, and will dunk on you.
So
Same with Lopez.
Taj Gibson's none of those players. When I watch games with Jalen, he just cannot stop talking about it. You've got this little all-star team that you're building with Avery Bradley and Gordon Hayward and Taj Gibson that you just love.
Absolutely. But the problem is he's not a stretch four, and Lopez isn't a post-up five. So you can suppress the floor against the Bulls and basically play zone. If Rondo has the ball, that makes it a lot worse, especially if he's going to hold on to the ball for 18 seconds to make a play and or try to get the assist, which he led the league last year. So from a basketball standpoint, though, he did have an amazing triple-double against the Cavs earlier in the year, and we've seen him have some good moments, and I think he can be a productive player. But this is the difference between being a superstar that has a chance to be a Hall of Famer, a star that plays as such, an all-star, and a veteran. Most of us fall in the last category. And how do you play multiple years? The ability to humble and reinvent yourself. You're not going to have the role with the Bulls that you had with the Celtics.
You're not going to run the show,
Rondo. It doesn't work that way.
Rondo, you're not running the show.
And so because of that, that is the next level for Derrick Rose, a couple of players that were an MVP before, the youngest in the history of the league, was a champion before, played with the Big Three in Boston. Now if you're going to have staying power getting quality minutes, A, it may not be as a starter on a contending team, and B, can you reinvent yourself to create longevity?
Jalen, we have to talk about your team. The Detroit Pistons. Owner Tom Gores had this to say about your man, Stan Van. Quote, I never worry about Stan because he wants to win. He's the hardest worker I've ever seen in my life. I believe in him as a man, and I believe in him as a strong person.
Stand by me.
That is very strong support from an owner to a head coach. But if the owner feels the need to give the head coach such strong support, is that indicative that there is a problem with the Pistons? Be honest.
Not at all. When the owner makes a statement about the head coach, it only means something really simple. That somebody asked him. That's all that it means. Yep. Stan Van Gundy has established himself clearly as one of the top coaches in the league. The Pistons have dealt with multiple injuries. Early in the season, it was Reggie Jackson. Currently, it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And playing in the Eastern Conference, you're a win streak away from being in the 4th seed. So with that, there's no reason to panic. There are a lot of teams that's going to fall between 4 and 9. They're going to be jockeying for those spots as the year progresses. If and when that team gets healthy, expect for the Pistons to be in the playoffs.
See, I've always loved Stan Van Gundy. He's always been so frank with the media. He's done some really interesting, open, candid media appearances, and I've always sort of believed in him as a head coach. However, when I saw that video of him dribbling the basketball, doing crossovers and spin moves, you're like, Stan Van Gundy will chop you up. We should call him Standles Van Gundy. Then I was like, oh, that's it. I love Standles. Standles, we support you here on Jalen Jacoby. Antonio.
AB.
Mr. Brown.
Business is booming.
Antonio Brown.
You won without scoring a touchdown.
84. I know you're excited, Mr.
Nino.
Brown. I know you're excited. I understand your enthusiasm. You just won a big playoff game on the road. Came down to the last second. I get it. But you took out your phone and you live streamed the locker room, during which your head coach and others were saying, be careful what you do on social media. When you heard them say that, did you stop live streaming, Mr. Brown? Did you? No, you didn't. A lot has been said about this, Jalen Rose. What do you think about the Steelers Streamgate?
It was a big-time win, first and foremost, by the Steelers. The first team in the history of the league to win a playoff game when the other team scored 2 more touchdowns. The Kansas City Chiefs played really well. Questionable holding penalty, in particular on a 2-point conversion that could have tied the game. So it wasn't like it was a landslide. No. Though Le'Veon Bell rushed for around 170 yards, Antonio Brown basically got his customary 100 yards. receiving. And Big Ben, as long as he's upright, does what he does. Once you get into the locker room, of course there's jubilation, enthusiasm, excitement. But really what it reminded me of more than anything, how it was handled, in particular by Mike Tomlin, is the current difference between the Steelers organization and the Giants organization. Because when Odell Beckham had his issues emotionally, whether it's missing the volunteer workouts, partying in Vegas with Khloe Kardashian, whether it was him proposing to the net, fighting the net, on a yacht in Miami a few days before a playoff game, you never saw anybody hold up their head, stick out their chest during the year and actually say something about it. Yes, their GM said something about it, but it was after the season ended. In Pittsburgh, it was handled a lot different. And this is why I have so much respect for Mike Tomlin.
Let's listen to Mike Tomlin.
It's a global thing in regards to professional sport. I think that's oftentimes why you see great players move around from team to team. And I definitely don't want that to be his story. I'm sure he doesn't want that to be his story. So he has to address these things.
Mike Tomlin took it all the way there. He took it. He didn't just say, hey, we need to stay off social media. He's like, this is a reason you see great players switch teams. Is that a threat to Antonio Brown?
100%. And when somebody talks about the championships they won, make sure you ask them if they've won 3 or more. How did it feel to play for Bill Belichick? Or what was it like being a Steeler? Or a Cowboy? Or a Packer? Or a Yankee? Laker? Celtics? That's why I give the side eye to fans, especially those from multiple markets who call themselves claiming 2 or more of those teams. But with that being said, what he basically acknowledged is, yes, you're a great player in Pittsburgh, one of the top receivers in the game. But it'll look a lot different if we trade you to Cleveland. Yep. And so Mike Tomlin did, again, what we have not seen done in other situations like the one I just addressed. And by the way, he also called it foolish, which equals not smart. He called it selfish because, 1, he wasn't listening. 2, he was still posting. 3, he called it inconsiderate. Like, dog, you trying to cost me my job? Like, you don't know what I'm about to say. You don't know if somebody's about to be walking around naked. You don't know anything that's about to go down. So for that to be live in a situation where Big Ben called the locker room and it's sacred, I'm just glad it did not get worse.
That's a great point. That's a good point,
This was pedestrian. This could have been a disaster for so many reasons that got averted basically just off luck.
So I've never been in a professional locker room in my entire life. I've never been in those doors or been in that sacred area. One thing I found so shocking about this tiny little peek into what happens, one thing that was so indicative of what's happening in our times today, is the head coach of the Steelers is saying, let's be cool on social media. He's not saying we got to get pressure on Tom Brady or we're going to win another one and we're going to get to the Super Bowl. He's not saying anything about the Patriots or about the game that just happened. The one thing he warns his team is everybody be cool on social media. And at that exact same moment, Antonio Brown is streaming through social media. It's just so weird to me that we live in this time where you have to tell your colleagues to relax on social media before a big football game. You're more concerned about that than you are your upcoming opponent.
Make sure from this, what gets stressed is this. The Pittsburgh Steelers in forever have only had 3 coaches. A family-run organization by the Rooneys, one of the top franchises in any sport. Yep. When Mike Tomlin comes out and says a player, whether it's a great player or not, doesn't want to play for multiple teams, what he's saying is we've dealt with multiple things off wax. And now we're dealing with this situation. If we continue to deal with situations like this, regardless of his production, we will get rid of him. And that not only is going to resonate with him, but the other players in the locker room. And here's my favorite thing about it. He's like, I ain't talked to him yet. I'll see him. I ain't worried about messing up my preparation on Monday and Tuesday. Like, I'll see him, and I'm going to discipline him the way I see fit, i.e. really hit those pockets. But more importantly, I run this. I'm the leader, not my great player. It was terrific how it was handled by an organization who tends to get these situations right usually.
So the Steelers weren't done posting on social media that evening. When James Harrison returned to Pittsburgh, I believe it was around like 5 in the morning, he immediately started working out. He's filming himself. He's putting it up on Instagram of him going through these intense workouts just hours after beating the Chiefs. That level of intensity kind of makes me uncomfortable. It's that KG, like it's just too intense. Like, just relax a little bit. Is it too much for James Harrison to be working out that soon after a National Football game?
It is. James, go home.
Like,
go
relax,
home to the
man.
family.
Have a sandwich.
Relax,
make yourself a nice plate of spaghetti and just take a nap.
You got
dude.
the holding call, big fella.
Yeah, you basically won the game with a little mini flop. Okay, James? Please don't kill me.
Crazy, deranged.
Jalen Rose. Steph Curry said something that has nothing to do with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It has nothing to do with Kevin Durant. That I found so interesting that I had to bring it up on this program. You ready, Mr. Rose?
Let's get it.
Quote, one thing my pops always told me is never count another man's money. It's what you've got and how you take care of it. And if I'm complaining about $44 million over 4 years, then I've got other issues in my life. He makes a great point, Mr. Rose, but for some reason I have an inkling that... Do you believe Steph Curry that he's never concerned about his salary in comparison to other people in the league?
Not in comparison to other people in the league, but there's also a quote that acknowledges that he could get over $200 million this summer, and he hopes to get it done.
There's that. Yeah, it's easy to make statements about your salary and how you're comfortable with where you're at when you know you're about 12 months away from signing for over $200 million.
And I affectionately call him a son of a gun, literally, because Dale was just that. Got a chance to play against him, had a quick release, longtime veteran in the league. He comes from a loving, supporting family. His brother's also in the league. So because of that, he probably doesn't have the sense of urgency or the desperation that you may see from a normal athlete who probably didn't come up from that background with that exposure, with that lifestyle. But trust me, who doesn't want to go from making $44 million to $200+ million?
Like, I just don't fully believe him. I mean, I understand there's a certain natural competitiveness that you need to be an athlete to get to that level. And are you trying to tell me, yeah, we're always talking about stats and the score, what happens on the court, but there is another part to this, is what happens in your pocket. Are you trying to tell me that he never looks around at all these other athletes that he is much better than, making twice, 2, 3 times as much as he is making? That never bothers him just a little bit after the end of a long night when him and Aisha are talking on the couch? He never just looks at someone else's salary and says, wait, who's making what?
No, it doesn't bother him because he look over at his Under Armour deal. He like me, LeBron, James Harden. That's about it. So he's not tripping at all. Now, if he didn't have extracurricular deals, he has multiple contracts and endorsements and things that he's already doing. So he's in a unique spot where the money that he's making away from the floor exceeds what he's being paid by his core business.
One of our producers, Harlan Endelman, sent me a picture, and he said, you have to ask Jalen about this. So this is a Harlan has to talk to Jalen about this moment. Steph Curry's hairline has seen crisper days, we'll say. What do you think about Mr. Curry's hairline sort of not exactly in its best state in one of the biggest games of the regular season?
I'm going to speak for the rest of the crew. We're not taking Harlan's question on the day he ain't show up. Not going to be able to do it.
Okay. Wow. Harsh, Jalen, harsh. Considering he did more preparation for this show than you did.
He always does more than me. Everybody does. Kales does more preparation than me.
Cavs general manager David Griffin had this to say about LeBron James and their relationship and each of their role in what they're doing. He said, quote, in his position, he is, quote, basically charged with the legacy of Babe Ruth. A couple of questions for you on this one. Do you think it's that big a deal? And is he flattering himself by pretending he has that much influence that he's in charge of LeBron James's legacy?
This is just one of those things you say after the team already won a championship.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't saying this when they had their previous coach before Tyronn Lue. That wouldn't have been noted. He wasn't saying this before they won in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. So it's one of those hindsight comments that also you take pride in acknowledging that I get a chance to navigate the roster along with him.
Yep.
The best player in basketball. So there's a badge of honor there because let me tell you what usually happens in sports to general managers and coaches. They get fired. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what else happened to players. They move teams and or they get traded. The only person that has staying power is the owner. So all he's doing is acknowledging his value. So if and when that day comes, he can get another gig.
We also have to be honest, like, it's not like he engineered the deal that had LeBron James going from the Heat to the Cavs. Like, he picked up the phone call, like, oh, we got LeBron? Like, David Blatt was like, we got LeBron? Like, what? Like, oh, now I'm in charge of his legacy. Like, you are accidentally in charge of his legacy because of his doing. Let's not make that big a deal out of it, Mr. Griffin.
Get off the bandwagon.
There are also some, like, rumors and whispers that they're looking for another playmaker for the Cavaliers. After adding Kyle Korver, do you think they're still seriously looking for someone else, and do they have the pieces to make that happen?
It was highlighted against the Golden State Warriors. There's a fine line between having multiple specialists versus guys that can dribble, pass, and shoot. They can play for themselves and others. And when you watch the Cavs play, a couple of guys that come to mind, JR, Kyle, Channing, are literally catch-and-shoot basketball players. Shumpert, Tristan are more defensive-oriented players. Creators, Kyrie and LeBron. In particular, isolation for Irving. So with that being said, Kevin Love, he can make the three, he can post up, he can lead the team in rebounding along with Tristan, but they do need another ball handler because when you go against a team like the Warriors, they put 5 players on the court at times that can actually dribble, pass, and shoot. Draymond had a triple-double. He was playing the 5. Kevin Durant, we know he's been an MVP. Iguodala and or Livingston going to be the 5th person in the lineup to go with the Splash Brothers.
Can we talk about Kevin Love's post-up for a quick second, Jalen Rose? He's either going to shoot a jump hook with his right hand or a fadeaway over his other shoulder every single time. He's going to bang into his guy 3 times and then shoot a jump hook. Sometimes it works. Most of the times it doesn't. Like, how do you not watch film and know that's going to happen if you're defending him?
You know what's going to happen, but I applaud him because what your suggestion, it baffles me that other big men, DeAndre Jordan comes to mind.
Sure.
That you can't just do a jump hook on a guy that's smaller than you and take advantage of a matchup. You should have one move over each shoulder. And so it's always head scratching to me when I see those will bigs who give you the energy and the shot blocking and the rebound. They can't just do a normal post move.
Jalen Rose, Seattle Mayor's office and the NBA are strongly denying a report that the city is ducking calls from Commissioner Adam Silver. First of all, the city of Seattle would never be ducking. No one ducks calls from Adam Silver unless they feel like they're about to get fined, okay? Yeah. Adam Silver calls, you call him back, especially if you're the city of Seattle. So I'm not buying this. But, like, this sort of rumor pops up every single year. My simple question to you is, in the next 5 years, will the NBA have a franchise in the great city of Seattle?
I hope so. Seeing multiple successful players come out of Seattle, Brandon Roy, Isaiah Thomas,
Nate Robinson,
my brother
Jamal Crawford. Sure.
Nate Robinson. I got a chance to play in Seattle and also attend a game in Seattle. And so many fond memories of that team in that city. I think they deserve one. If you look around the league at some of the fan bases while you're watching League Pass, you're like, they don't deserve a team. Like, look at the stands. Like, So I hope they eventually get one because I think they deserve it.
As do I. Jalen Rose. I'm so proud of the moving companies of San Diego. They are refusing. There are 12 moving companies that are refusing to help the San Diego Chargers move. They're like, we don't want your money. Don't move to Los Angeles. Over the weekend, the tight end of the Chargers was booed at a game in Staples Center in the town where they're going to move. One of the things that you said when you first heard that the Chargers were moving to Los Angeles was what?
The city doesn't want you.
No, it's
not a good look.
To feel more and more that way. Does Los Angeles want the Chargers?
Here's something that the great Ice Cube alluded to that I want to make sure I stress. The city of Los Angeles, if they had the Lakers, the Dodgers, and the Raiders, they'd be good.
That's all they need.
Everybody else can bounce.
You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that because when those teams are doing well, the city gets behind them. The Clippers have been doing well for a while. I don't see a lot of Clippers jerseys out in the streets. It's just something that I don't see too much of. Angels, I don't see a lot of Angels paraphernalia. How many Angels fans are in your life? And I've lived here for 5 years. I've met like none.
Here's the thing that can still happen. Why don't everybody rewind the tape, ship the Chargers back to San Diego, and have the Clippers go with them?
Yep.
Ooh, you're shipping off the Clippers. Well, depending on what happens in free agency at the end of the year, we'll see if San Diego even wants the Clippers. Stay tuned to that. Clippers beat Russell Westbrook and the Thunder last night, but Chris Paul has an injury. What do you make of the injury-riddled Clippers and how that affects their chances not only to, affect their seeding in the playoffs, but to retain Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, who will be free agents at the end of the year?
First off, in the West, it's the Warriors and everybody else. You got to give a hat tip to the Spurs because they have Kawhi Leonard and obviously Coach Pop and a legacy of greatness and consistency. When I look further down at the standings, I'm impressed by what I see with the Rockets. James Harden playing like an MVP. 4 players amongst the top 10 in threes made. Memphis has been really surprising under David Fizdale. He's done a terrific job of having them play above expectations. The Clippers are in that category as well. Those teams, if they make it to the Western Conference Finals, they'll have a parade. So the thought process of whether the Clippers are real versus are they really a contender are two different things to me. And clearly without a healthy Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, they're not going to be able to achieve those goals.
You just did one of the most impressive things you've ever done on this show. One of the most impressive things you've ever done on this show. You just weaved in a callback joke into your analysis. For those of you that weren't listening, Reggie.
Are the Clippers for real?
God, congratulations, Mr. Rose. Sometimes doing this show with you is very impressive and fun. Sometimes it's not so much.
But I'm impressed by being shorthanded. Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, J.J. Redick, still finding ways to get victories. That was a big-time win against OKC.
I watch more Clippers than I should. I'm impressed by Austin Rivers. I'm impressed by Austin Rivers. I don't love him as an NBA basketball player. He's not like one of the guys that I think is secretly great.
That's why I had to mention him.
He has established himself as someone that can score in the NBA, can get by his man and score on the help defender. He's really been impressive.
I can tell that he's learned a lot from Jamal Crawford, Chris Paul as well, because I'm seeing them incorporate a lot of those ball handling tricks that he's so famous for.
There's a study that eating red hot peppers may prolong your life. What? Now, you're not a big, spicy guy. You know what I mean? You're not a big hot sauce guy, hot pepper guy. That's more of me. That's my thing. Will this study, knowing that it will prolong your life, change your dietary habits?
No, but I'll drink more red wine because I heard it's good for your heart.
You know what? That's... Dear everybody, okay? They come out with this study every 6 months that how good red wine is for you. And how, do you know, here's the thing. Whoever started that study, whoever's like, we need to look into the positive properties of red wine. That person just wants an excuse. So every time someone opens up a bottle and says, well, the doctors say that 1 glass a day is good for you. No, it is not. All right. Red wine is not some youth elixir that's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel better for 2 hours and then make you feel worse the next morning. Red wine is not healthy. It's not kale juice. Okay, red wine. Just be real with yourself. When you open that bottle of red wine, you're not saying, "Oh, I'm really doing something good for your body." You're saying, "I'm doing something good for myself because this is going to make me feel good." End of rant.
And we putting it on wax. It's
Jalen, we're going to spend the rest of the week talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers going into Atlanta to face Future and Matt Ryan and the Falcons. We're going to talk about the Steelers not scoring a touchdown and then going to Foxborough to face Tom Brady and the Patriots. We have the rest of the week to do that. So what we're going to do today, right now, we're going to pour one out for the losers of the division round in the NFL. First team we're going to pour one out for, the Dallas Cowboys. Lost one of the best playoff games in recent memory to the Packers, but there's a lot of positive to take from this season. The first question I have for you about the Packers season as we pour one out for them, the franchise, and their many, 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 many fans around the world, is what's the upside? What is the good part? What is there to build on from this season if you are the Dallas Cowboys franchise or their fans?
They established, in my opinion, the second best set of triplets in the league. The first clearly reside in Pittsburgh, where the Killer Bees are on the swarm, Wu-Tang style. Then it's Dak, Ezekiel, and Dez, who all played terrific. It was a really good game. And for those that dismiss the importance of special teams, and I think I want to do more to highlight this, a lot of teams had kickers missing extra points this year.
Yep.
There were kickers losing their jobs. There were kickers that cost their team more points via PAT than ever. In this game, though there was great skill play, it was terrific kicking.
It's good.
In particular, a couple of 50-yard kicks that ultimately determined who was going to win.
Ultimately, who determined who was going to win was a gentleman by the name of Aaron Rodgers. Now, there are a lot of plays that we can highlight during this game, and we'll celebrate. You've already heard about how he held on to the football and the play before the play and how he drew up the play like a sand lot in the huddle. I don't know how much I believe that, but it's a good story. As hot as Aaron Rodgers is, I want to talk about a different quarterback. A gentleman by the name of Tony Romo, who at one point in the game you thought might even take a snap over a healthy Dak Prescott. Things were going so poorly for the Cowboys. But now the question is this. What will Jerry Jones do with his close family friend, his employee, his guy, Tony Romo?
Here's what I don't get. It was all good just a week ago in Dallas. You show so much promise, you host a playoff game, and you lose. But now don't double down and acknowledge as an organization that you're not sure who's going to be the starting quarterback next year?
what?
Why would you put that in the atmosphere? First and foremost, we know it's going to be Dak.
It's going to be Dak.
It's not going to help Tony Romo's trade value in any way, shape, or form.
No.
All you're going to do is prolong the fact that Dak's still going to be like, you know what? They still not giving me love like I deserve. Now all of a sudden you plant a level of doubt with your future that's totally unnecessary. We all know you need to unload Tony Romo, and you're going to end up being stuck with him and have the highest paid backup quarterback. In my opinion, that's what they are and should do.
Interesting, because I really believe that there is a strong personal, emotional friendship relationship between Jerry Jones and Tony Romo. Like, I think that those two men are very close. I think that plays into this. So here's a question I'm going to ask you, Jalen. Are they close that, you know what, Tony, I won't keep you as the backup. I'll let you go. I'll trade you to a different team just so we can get something back for you. That's one level of closeness. Or are they so close that Jerry Jones, the businessman, will say, Tony, I love you like a son. I'm going to release you. So you will be a free agent. You can chart your own course to where you want to go to a team in a scenario that fits your goals. That's what I'm going to do for you. Could you see a world in which Jerry Jones does that for Tony Romo?
Well, he's not releasing them. Not going to be able to do it. That's not happening.
Okay.
That option is out.
I did sell it, though, didn't I, with the emotional stuff? No?
That option is out.
Okay.
However, there will be a scenario where Jerry says, hey, we've got inquiries from said team. They'll sit down and determine if he wants to go to the Browns, no.
No.
If he wants to go to the Broncos, yes.
Yep.
But here's the difference. They may not get in return what we all think.
Oh, 25 cents on the dollar.
Because I don't think they're going to get what they consider true value in return, they might as well have the highest paid backup in the league in case something does happen to their second-year quarterback next year.
That's a good point. I would not be shocked if it ended up going this way. Well, we're pouring one out for the Cowboys. We also have to quickly pour one out for the Texans. You know how we always talk about success and expectations and happiness is a function of expectations? Are Texans and their fans happy with this season?
They're happy with the season because they made the playoffs. The problem is their biggest issue is at the position that means the most, quarterback.
Yep.
And whether it's Savage, whether it's Osweiler, that situation has not been resolved.
No.
So here, on this very program, I have a solution.
Fix the
for their
Texans.
franchise.
Mr. Rose.
This offseason, they need to go out and sign a seasoned veteran that's well respected, that has a history in the community, and is beloved by everyone. UGK's Bun B.
Yes! Yes!
That's what they should do.
What position, what role? Is he front office? Is he going to be the quarterback? What do you think?
Quarterback.
Quarterback. Bun B the quarterback.
Yep.
Next team we're going to pour one out for the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, we like to evaluate seasons as a function of expectations. Are the Chiefs happy and are their fans happy with the way that this season went?
This is the most unique team that we're going to pour one out for because while their team is happy, they're not satisfied because when you score 2 more touchdowns than the team that's advancing, you can tell yourself that the best team didn't win.
Yeah.
And if we didn't make certain mistakes throughout the period of the game, we should have been the team that advanced. They've showed a lot of promise. You saw the emergence of players like Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, for whatever it's worth, had an amazing season, established himself not only as a runner, but a receiver, a player in special teams. I think as this star continues to climb, we've seen this happen with professional athletes. People will now highlight some of the things that have taken place in his past.
Yep.
His transgressions in particular with domestic violence. But with that being said, the Chiefs showed a lot of promise. And yes, they're still excited about what they accomplished this season.
Now, a team that we're going to finish with, we're finally going to pour one out for the Seattle Seahawks. I would say a team that is not happy with where their season ended. Do you agree?
This is a classic case, and for whatever it's worth, the reason why I picked the Atlanta Falcons to win this game. Media members in particular and fans get so wrapped up in the history of teams, not realizing that each week, each season, rosters turn over. And the team that you saw in the Super Bowl the last couple of years was not the team that I was watching on the field all year. And I know they have some colorful personalities in Bennett and Richard Sherman. And because of that, media members ain't going to talk about them because they have clapped back. You can't just lose Earl Thomas and not be the Legion of Boom. Like, when you say Legion, that's multiple players that's getting it done. They have Cam Bam Chancellor back there, like one of the most physical safeties in the modern game. So the biggest surprise to me, besides their offense was in their offensive line was in shambles, they never established a running game, is that they didn't have what's considered an elite defense all season. That is something I think, now that we hear that Richard Sherman was playing with an MCL injury all year, that they'll look to correct next year. And obviously, continue to get improvement from Russell Wilson.
You call 985-80-JALEN. Leave us a voicemail, and we will answer it right here on the show. Let's listen to the first voicemail of the day.
Bonjour, Jalen. Jacoby from Montreal. Wanted to say hello. And thank you for being a big part of my day. I've had to extend my lunch breaks in order to listen to the full podcast. I was first off wondering if you have any underrated trash talk stories, something like a Tim Duncan trash talk story. And secondly, I wanted to thank you for helping me win my bet against my sister. I told her I would make it onto my favorite podcast. Love you guys. Thank you very much.
First of all, we love international listeners. I love that he started with the bonjour. And I love that he asked for a very specific trash talk story. Has Tim Duncan ever talked trash to you, Mr. Rose?
Unless you consider get that out of here trash talk.
No, that's just natural. I mean, I don't think you can block a shot and not say that. I think that's just reaction. That's just what happens. I appreciate
the fact that he extends his lunch break to listen to the program.
Yes. Here's another thing. It's like he seems like a very good employee. Because, let's be honest, let's be real, I'd be listening to us while I was working. You know what I mean? Not just on lunch break. Like, let's be honest. I'd have one headphone in going up through my shirt, just on the one side where no one can see it, and I'd be listening to Jalen Jacoby every single day. If you subscribe to the podcast, you can make Jalen Jacoby part of your daily routine. Thank you so much for the call. Let's listen to the next one.
Yo, what up, though? This is Hong Yi Wang, calling from China. I want you guys to know that you guys have a lot of fans in China. Even after Jalen made that Yao Ming Hall of Fame comment. But I might, though. My question is, who is the best big man dunker all time? And don't say Amari. I got you, Jacoby. Keep getting checked.
I love this guy. There's so much I love about him. First of all,
he literally listens and watches the show.
He listens to the show, you can tell. And he's in China. And that just seems like so far away. And he's saying that we have a lot of fans there. That's a great market for us. Because you know what happens to washed-up NBA players? They go to China, right? When we get fired from Jalen and Jacoby, boom, me and you take this show on the road. We'll be in China. There's more people there. We'll be the Stephon Marbury of the media in China. I can't wait to do that. That's going to be so much fun.
A couple of things. I appreciate the fact that he called me out on Yao Ming's Hall of Fame candidacy. And I want to make sure I reiterate what I said. It wasn't that he didn't have an amazing impact on the game, in particular as a global ambassador, being somebody that became an all-NBA performer and all-star. It's the international prospects, for those that don't know, get graded on a different curve than American-born players. And I don't think that's fair. They're compared to only international players, not all players. And I just don't like that. The other thing, the Amari comment about best big man dunkers.
He's not even in the conversation.
Jacoby's not wearing his ring today.
He's not even in the conversation.
Is there something going on that you need to tell me?
No. The best big man dunker is Shaquille O'Neal. It's not sexy every time he does it, but it's just so strong and aggressive. Shaquille O'Neal is the best big man dunker. It's a different type of dunk, Jalen. Not the best dunker of all time. But if you're talking about big men, I'm just talking about quantity over quality. Shaquille O'Neal is my answer to best big man dunker. And thank you so much for the call from China.
I'm pretty sure I could think of a better one because all of his dunks were just power dunks. They weren't.
All right. Watch
Has he ever dunked backwards?
One thing I know about Jalen Rose is not good at thinking things on the spot. Name another one. Go ahead, name another one. Jalen, go, name another one.
All right, I got a couple.
No, you don't.
Hold on.
No, not a couple.
Hit the break.
If you got a couple, then you don't have one. If you got a couple, then you don't have one.
First off, I ain't never seen Shaq catch a backwards lob. I've seen DeAndre Jordan do it like it was no big deal.
Okay, are you just saying into a microphone that DeAndre Jordan is a better dunker than Shaquille O'Neal?
What? In the game, yeah.
What? Oh, see, now I can't. No, I can't get with that. I can't get with that at all. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to remind everyone that tomorrow is Woman Crush Wednesday on Jalen and Jacoby. We need all of our female listeners to call 985-80-JALEN and leave us voicemails. We'll have a female exclusive voicemail segment tomorrow to give the people what they want.
So, you mean to tell me Shaq's dunks had style? Is that what you're saying?
I'm grading big man dunking differently. That's what I'm doing. You know what I
Oh,
want to
like
bring
Yao
up?
Ming in the Hall of Fame. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Yao Ming in the Hall of Fame to bring it full circle. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Travis from the Carolinas. I was just curious. I got a question for the both of y'all. I would like both of y'all to answer. In the game of one-on-one, just be straight up and honest. Russell Westbrook or the answer? Thanks. Give the people what they want.
Travis, big shout to you. I like that he represents both Carolinas. I think that's important. He's like, I'm not from North Carolina. I'm not from South Carolina. I'm from the Carolinas. Kakalackas, stand up. So here's one thing that's I'm going to answer Travis's question first. It's hard for me because Jalen knows that I really, really, really don't like cross-era comparisons. You know, like if you look at Bob Cousy and Russell Westbrook, they're just like, you know what I mean? It's just a different sport over time. So it's hard for me to do this hypothetical Allen Iverson in his prime. He gets into the Bill and Ted's Time Travel booth and then goes to play one-on-one with Westbrook. It's just a hard thing for me to do. All that being said, one-on-one, size matters. You know, one-on-one size matters and aggression matters because you get tired towards the end. I'm taking Russell Westbrook.
One-on-one, unless it's 3 dribbles maximum, you got to go with Russell because exactly what you said, his size and athleticism.
A lot of one-on-one is hustle for rebounds. A lot of one-on-one is just how are you in better shape? You know, that's really what it is because you both get tired after like 8 buckets and then it just becomes a war of attrition. Jalen, do you know who Bill and Ted are?
That's a television show.
You're right. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, what up, fellas? It's Anthony representing Inland Empire, Southern California boy. And I wanted to ask you guys if you think that Antonio Brown or D'Angelo Russell had the worst social media mistake. You give them checks, boys.
First of all, great call. I love the Inland Empire. We've got Ontario, California out there. I've been to the Inland Empire. I'm familiar with those parts. Good question, though, coming from the Inland Empire. Worst social media mistake, Antonio Brown and Streamgate, or D'Angelo Russell basically ruining his chances to flourish in the Lakers last year?
This isn't close. D'Angelo Russell.
You're right.
Because he was secretly recording a conversation.
As was
he
Antonio
was
Brown.
misleading the witness.
Okay.
The witness was lying to him, exaggerating like a vet would do. Yeah, young fella, you know, when I go to town, you know, this is how I do it. You know what I'm saying? And then he took that conversation from a hotel room and he put it on wax. What? And by the way, did they make the playoffs?
No.
At least Antonio Brown was doing it after a jubilation and a victory in the locker room, which I'm not going to defend in any way, shape, or form, but D'Angelo's clearly worse. And I think it probably led, whether 1% or 99%, to Nick Young's relationship being over.
For sure. Jalen, I don't do this enough, but you made a really good point. This whole Antonio Brown thing was bad, but whoa, that could have gone worse. That could have gone in so many different directions. After a playoff game in the locker room, addressing the whole team, the me against the world stuff, he could have said something about the commissioner. He could have said something about his opponents that they just beat. He could have said something about the city. It could have gone so many different ways that it didn't. All he did was say that the Patriots had an extra day to prepare. It could have gone so bad. And Antonio Brown is lucky that it didn't. Let's listen to one more voicemail.
What up, though? This your boy Danny D from the 918. I'm a loyal podcast listener. And basically what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to play a game that you have not played in a while. But before we mention the game, allow me to set the table. So I just received a wedding invite from one of my boys. And, on every wedding invitation, it lists the attire. So on this particular invitation, the attire says business casual or church clothes. Black, white, or other. Don't get fired.
All right. We haven't played this game in a long time. First of all, I want to give a big shout to Rue Jude and Lord Sear, who are the originators of this game. Been listening to those two for a long time. Lord Sear for over 2 decades. I'm going to say, in general, white people do not use the term church clothes as much as people of color do. Okay? We all have to choose our words very wisely here. So I'm going to go with black. Mr. Rose.
African American. No question about it. Church clothes. That's the giveaway.
Jalen, we have a simple model on this show. Part of giving the people what they want is opening up our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed and taking questions from the people. Are you ready, Mr. Rose?
Let's get it.
Dan Yeezus has this question. It's pretty good. Do you think the NBA should allow hand checking again and allow more physical, chippy atmosphere? Let's take those as two different ones. Should the NBA allow hand checking again?
No.
Why not?
Because at this point, what happens with rules, teams now start to build their rosters based on player skill set to play for the rules, how they're currently instituted. So if you notice, you see players that probably are more slender, slight of build, not as physically imposing, probably have the ability to be a little more active and therefore not as physical and not able to take that type of pounding and punishment. So it would be a big time turnover in the league. Look at a guy like Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
He could play in this NBA 5 more years.
He really might.
Because he can handle, he can shoot, and you can't bump into him. So that's what the game has become. Now, what I do hope the league starts to allow again is hard fouls.
So you think, how would you change the rules? So you're saying there should be a more physical, chippy atmosphere. I guess it's not exactly the perfect way of putting it, but you would allow more hard fouls. You basically take away flagrant ones?
I wouldn't take them away because there has to be a barrier between 1, 2, and how you discipline the player, eject the player, and or find somebody who commits such said penalty. But I just think that I went from falling in love with a league where Robert Parrish gave Bill Laimbeer a two-piece, and all they did was shoot 2 free throws and continue to play basketball. So there has to be a happy medium there where you can still be physical and impose your will. That's one of the things as a fan that I don't like about the game is that you can't physically intimidate your opponent. There is no deterrent for a guy driving to the basket in any way, shape, or form.
One place, and I rarely do I join up with old man Jalen on this kind of stuff, you know? And one place that I definitely agree with you, one place I want to see still be a little more physical is the setting of picks. Today's day and age, I feel like you, like as a pick setter, like not only can you not even lean into a little bit, like you have to almost set a soft pick and fall backwards because you know the person running into it's going to flop. You can set a nice, good pick and the person running into it flops, and all of a sudden it's a foul on you. Speaking of which, for your eyes only, wants to know. Simple question, Jalen, that leads to a very complex answer. Just 4 words. Why does LeBron flop?
To get the call.
Simple question, simple answer. Let's move on.
That's why you shouldn't reward it.
Alice wants to know. Okay, quick thing. We all watched LeBron exaggerate that foul from Draymond Green. It was the smart thing to do as a basketball player. His reaction is what caused the review. If he stayed on his feet, which he could have, let's be honest, let's be real, they don't even review it. They just call a foul and check it out on the side. He essentially created a flagrant foul on Draymond Green, which is a smart play, especially when you're down by what they were down in the game. However, when you watch the flop, this is like a WWE like wrestler move that he does. He slaps the ground with his hand at the same time his head hits his arm to make it sound like his head hit the ground. I'm on to you, LeBron.
Marcus Smart was like, that was a good job.
Yeah, Marcus Smart. He's like, I gotta watch some film on Bron. You gotta add that to my Bron flop highlight reel that I study before games. Next question. Another simple 4-word question. David wants to know, is Isaiah Thomas underrated?
Yes. Because a guy with his ability, height, putting up the type of numbers that he puts up, you still look like, is there something else to this? Like, oh, since he's short, can he lead a team to a championship? Can he be a team's best player? Can they be a contender with him as a leading scorer? There's still those questions in a guard-driven, score-first mentality type league. He's been dominant, in particular in the fourth quarter. So yes, he slept on, but you got to wake up because this guy putting up numbers.
Oh no, one of our favorite tweeters has a very important update. USB Skate, who tweets us all the time, has a message for you, Jalen. Just wanted you to know that we just named our goldfish Jalen. What? Jalen's now of all colors, genders, and species. I have one message for USB Skate. Someone who has been a parent to not just many children, but many, many goldfish. Keep the water clean. Feed the goldfish. They don't stay around unless you'll get out of that goldfish what you put into that goldfish, okay?
I hope it's more than 48 hours.
I don't want to get a tweet next Wednesday talking about Jalen died. All right, USB Skate. Now that you're on wax, knowing that I want a weekly update, USB Skate. I want a weekly update as to a health of that goldfish, and I want you to put like a tattoo on that goldfish and take a picture of it every week, because don't switch goldfish on us. We have special goldfish facial identity monitoring technology here at Jalen Jacoby.
Yep.
We do.
Yep.
We definitely have that.
Yep.
Thank you. Next question that we have. Ooh, I like this one. Jalen, this is from Anthony Smith. I like this. This is going to be hard for you. Who would you rather build your team around, Paul George or Jimmy Butler? Got to pick a side. Ooh, Jalen's making the, that was a tough question face.
You got to take injury history into account.
Okay.
And Paul George has had a horrific injury take place, but I'm still taking him.
You're still taking Paul George over Jimmy Butler. Okay.
I will.
Even after your Pacers underperformed for this first half of the season.
Where the Bulls slotted in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the second I said that, I was like, whoops. Adam wants to know. He said, my bucket list item is being met this year at WrestleMania. What are your bucket list vacay sports events? Well, I'm glad you asked, Adam, because I am currently in the middle of training for a marathon. I've always wanted to run a marathon. I ran 10.5 miles yesterday. I may or may not have Googled this weekend, how do you train for a marathon, and been very intimidated by the results. Like, I have to run a lot before this marathon or I'm not going to finish. I'm scared of this marathon, so much so that I'm intentionally mentioning it on this program over and over again to sort of intimidate myself into actually participating. Do you have any bucket list vacation or sports items that you'd like to share, Mr. Rose?
First and foremost, I support you. I'm happy for you. I'm proud that you're going to be participating. How long does it normally take
all I
for
know
someone
is
to complete a marathon?
All I want to know is like 4 hours is kind of like a benchmark time of how serious you are about it. But the only benchmark time I care about is I need to be faster than Oprah and faster than Puff Daddy. Okay? If I'm faster than both of them, then I've succeeded. That's all that matters.
So if the benchmark is 4 hours, I'll make sure 6 hours after it starts, I'm at the finish line to represent.
Perfect. One last tweet. This is from Iskinder. I'm from Ethiopia. Been listening since Jacoby's Yellow Teeth days, and I just want to shout out. Big shout to you, Iskinder, in Ethiopia. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.